Hey, this is Sean. Welcome back to another episode of Montana Investigates. We're going to look at the truth, the lies, the misrepresentations, and attack ads that are coming out in the state of Montana. Tonight, it's going to be a really short one. I'm just going to kind of go back and touch on a subject I brought up very briefly in episodes 1 and 2. But I think what I'm showing you tonight it'll reinforce what I said before. I also just want to make one brief note on the type of ads I'm going to be looking into. Once in a while you see ads like this. Again, this is coming out from our boys out in the UPS store in Washington, D.C., which I talked about in episodes 1 and 2. But they put out an ad. It's not really an attack ad. It's just supporting Kurt Alme, saying the things that he claims that he will be able to do once he's elected to the U.S. Senate. I don't plan on touching on these types of ads. I'm just going to focus on the attack ads. So when you see these ads, I'm not going to say anything about them. Candidate can claim all he wants. That's fine. But we're just going to focus on the attack ads. But one thing I want to do is look at the bottom of this ad in particular. And I talked about this when we talked about it in episodes 1 and 2 with the Seth Bodnar ads that came out from the American Leadership Fund. They kind of have this format they use. And they always put at the bottom of it, email Seth to tell him, that you don't like his policies or whatever. Well, in this one, they don't say email Kurt, they say phone Kurt. Which, as if you remember this ad about Seth, remember at the very bottom they're saying email him. So why is that a big deal? Well, as I talked about in episode 1 and 2, is basically what I think they're trying to do with the Seth Bodnar, email Seth Bodnar line at the bottom of their ads, is they want to fill up Seth Bodnar's email inbox, which is junk mail, basically. I mean, again, it's people who are saying they don't agree because of this flyer, but they just want to fill up that inbox, make it harder for Seth's people to respond to actual emails if people are actually sending him emails and asking questions. But with the Kurt Alme ad, they just give a phone number. And now that is the phone number, 406-924-3840, which is actually connected to Kurt Alme, his campaign, his website. I called it After Hours. I guess it's a Google account. And they just said leave a message. I don't know if during normal hours, but I assume so. And that's the point of why they have you phone Kurt, but email Seth. Somebody's going to answer that phone. It's not going to be answered by a human being, most likely. I'm going to call during the day, see if I'm wrong. But you can call all you want. Leave your message. Maybe nobody will listen to it. I don't know. But it's not going to have any effect on the system. But emailing Seth is going to make it harder for him to respond to those emails if he chooses to do that. Now, this seems like a minor point, and I kind of went back and forth in my head if this was actually what they're trying to do here. But I thought, well, maybe Kurt doesn't put out a email address, and so they just put his phone number instead. I mean, just trying to be honest here, look at both sides fairly. Or it could just be that they got lazy and they're just not keeping a standard format. I don't know. But so I thought, well, let's see if Kurt has an email address that they could have put at the bottom of their ad. Yep. So I went to Kurt's site. I said contact, information about contacting them. And you can see where I circled there, it says reach us, and there is an info@almeforsenate.com. Similar to what Seth had they have on Seth's flyer. Now, yeah, maybe I'm making too much out of this, but I know they're really thinking, I think they really think these things through to that level. There's a possibility that our boys out at the UPS store in Palisades in suburban DC just are not putting really any thought to it. I actually wouldn't doubt that either. But I kind of tend to believe that there is some intent behind that. So very, very small point. I just wanted to go over that. I saw that. I noticed that when the pro-Alme ads came out from the American Leadership Fund. So just a minor point, and just want to put that out. See, that should be coming out very soon. And then I'm also thinking about doing kind of something a little bit off what I have been doing, but kind of along the same lines. And it deals with the movie JFK, which came out like in 1992, I believe is when it came out. Now, for some of my older listeners, you will probably remember that movie JFK. and the effect that it had on the American public when it came out. And basically that movie, it pushes the audience to believe that the government, the CIA, FBI, whoever was involved in the actual assassination. I actually give a class on this movie in particular, just the movie. And there's a lot of things in the movie which I think kind of shows, again, what I'm trying to show in these political attack ads, how they kind of try to manipulate. You really see that in the movie JFK. And I mean, in terms of Oliver Stone, the director, trying to manipulate you into believing something which I don't think really, it's not true. So I'm going to try and put that together. I think it'd be interesting for you guys. But again, it's just to show that like how people use media, things like that to mislead you. But I mean, it looks very convincing. But as you dig, you find out that it's not always true. So thanks again for listening in. We'll try to get more. We'll try to get them shorter all the time. Try to make it more interesting. And hope to see you again.